Here we are with yet another chapter from Fine Tune Your English titled Adjectives. Let's learn what adjectives are by first watching this video. It's an intro video. Let's watch this.
Once upon a time, a hen lived with a pig, a cat, and a rooster. The rooster was fat and lazy. The rooster said, "Today is very bright and beautiful." The pig was very cute. The pig was very proud and lazy. The cat had shiny fur. It was lazy too. The cat used to say, "Work would make my fur dirty." But the hen was active. She always worked hard. One day, she thought, "I need to grow some wheat for bread." The hen asked her friends for help, but no one helped her. The pig said, "If I work in dirt, I look ugly." The rooster said, "I don't want to become thin." The cat refused to work, saying, "My fur will be dirty." But the hen worked hard and grew some wheat. One day, she happily said, "This field is looking so beautiful now." The hen needed help to cut the crop. The hen thought, "I will ask my friends for help." The cat didn't help. It said, "I would become weak if I were." The pig also didn't help. The pig said, "That is a hard job." The rooster didn't help. He said, "I don't want to work. Go away." The hen did all the work alone. The hen said to herself, "I am so tired." The hen made a big cake using flour. The pig, cat, and rooster came inside, smelling the yummy cake. The hen said, "I grew the crop. I cut it. This cake is only for me." Her friends realized their mistake. The rooster said, "We are really sorry." The hen forgave them. Then they all ate the cake happily. Let us learn adjectives. Adjective is a word that describes a person, animal, place, thing, etc. So an adjective is a describing word. The rooster was fat and lazy. The word fat and lazy describe the rooster. So, they are describing words or adjectives. The pig was very cute. The word cute describes the pig. So, cute is an adjective. The cat had shiny fur. Shiny describes the fur of the cat. It is an adjective. The hen made a big cake. The word big describes the size of that cake. So big is an adjective. The hen said, "This field is looking so beautiful now." The word beautiful describes the field. So it is a describing word or an adjective. Here the word active describes the nature of that hen. So it is an adjective. Remember, adjectives are used to describe something like person, animal, place, object, etc. That is why adjectives are also called describing words, like active hen, lazy rooster, cute pig, tasty cake. Active, lazy, cute, etc. describes a person, animal, etc. So these are adjectives: tasty, sweet, bitter, sour, soft, hard, etc. describe objects. So they are adjectives too. Remember, adjectives are describing words. Goodbye.
So you heard what adjectives are, and I'm sure that was a good intro to adjectives. So adjectives are describing words. An adjective modifies a noun, its quantity and quality. Look at this example. Several people were killed in the fierce encounter in front of the American embassy. In italics, you see several, fierce, and American, all adjectives. American describing the quality, while several, American and fierce qualifies the nouns, while several quantifies the nouns. Adjectives have been divided into two categories. You have simple adjectives, like the usual ones: kind, pretty, beautiful, good, sweet, etc. And we have derived adjectives. Derived adjectives are those which are derived from other words by adding suffixes. For example, if you have the word admire, admire would be a verb. But here we have admirable becoming an adjective. Fear is a noun. You have FUL added to it for it to become an adjective. So, heroic, lavish, attractive, famous, windy. All our adjectives are derived adjectives, that are adjectives which are derived from other words by adding suffixes. Now, adjectives modify nouns, we know that. How do they do that? Adjectives modify nouns in two ways. They pre-modify nouns or work as complements of linking verbs. Pre-modify means to be placed before a noun so as to describe it better. For example, a memorable event or an inseparable companion. So, this kind of adjectives which pre-modify nouns are called the attributive case. So, an adjective that pre-modifies a noun is called an attributive case. Then some adjectives can only be attributive. Like noun adjectives, that is, nouns that function as adjectives. Attributive nouns can only be used in this manner. For example, world peace. Adjectives that refer to permanent attributes can also be used only in this manner, that is, attributively. So they can be called attributive only adjectives. So we have noun adjectives that function as attributive only adjectives because they can only be used in this manner with nouns. Adjectives, we have the different kinds of attributive only adjectives. Are attributive only adjectives showing relationship. For example, an atomic scientist. Attributive 2 is attributive only adjectives that intensify a noun, that further intensify or give strength to a noun. For example, the former president. Then attributive only adjectives that limit the noun, as in the main thrust. So these are the different types of attributive only adjectives. So now we come to the predicative use of adjectives. When an adjective is used as a complement of a linking verb, it is said to be predicatively used. Predicatively used adjectives function as complements of linking verbs. So they are either related to the subject or the object of the sentence. So John remained inactive, where you have the subject being spoken about, and what Mary said is true, where you have the object being referred to. Now, the adjectives functioning as object complements often show the result of the process suggested by the verb. As you have in this example, he pulled the string tight. So something that the noun does, the action or the process of pulling the string and trying to make it tighter is finally suggested by the word tight, meaning the process has ended with that adjective. So he pulled the string tight would be an example. Now, so we have attributive and predicative. Just like attributive only adjectives, there are also predicative only adjectives. Examples for predicative only adjectives are given here: aware, asleep, awake. Now, attributive only adjectives come before the noun they modify, and a few of them come after the noun they modify, as in people present. Now, indefinite pronouns that end in one, body, thing, or where can be modified only by putting the attributive adjectives in front of them. For example, in get, someone trustworthy. That is an example for attributive adjectives. Some adjectives change their meaning according to whether they occur in front of the noun or after it. Look at this example: president-elect and elected president, present members and members present. So here, the adjectives change their meaning according to whether they occur. So when elected, in president-elect and elected president, elect in both the words, when it occurs after president, the noun president, it means a person who has been elected. He is referred to as a person who is considered as the next president. And elected president, where the president has already been elected and has been put in office. The same for present members and members present. Present members would refer to a committee that has a few members that have always been there as a part of that committee, and members present would be a committee going on, a meeting going on that is functioning or happening at that point of time, and it refers to the number of members who were present there. So this is attributive only and predicative only adjectives. Now, coming again to attributive adjectives, most of the attributive adjectives, when used attributively, are placed after the noun. So we have mostly attributive adjectives being placed after the noun. Words like ablaze, alone, aghast, afloat, afraid, awake and ashamed. So here, this post-modifying adjective, that is the adjective that comes after the noun and modifies the noun, functions as a relative clause in a verbless adjectival clause. So the members present asked for the president's comment. The post-modifying adjective functions as a relative clause in a verbless adjectival clause. So here in the members present asked for the president's comment, we have the members present asking for the president's comment. So the post-modifying adjective here being members present. And here also the following legal terms use post-modifying adjectives like Attorney General, Notary Public, Postmaster General, Court Martial, Heir Apparent, etc. Uses of adjectives. Working issues. When we use adjectives, there can be some change of meaning when certain adjectives are used attributively. For example, changes in meaning would include a sentence like he is ill, and then you have another sentence like there is ill feeling between the two brothers. So where ill has been used in two ways, meaning two different things. Another example would be John is poor, and I thought of poor old John. John is poor and poor old John. Again, two adjectives which are used attributively and which have a meaning change. He is certain to win, and a certain man asked after you. Again, certain being the adjective that is attributively used, which differs in meaning in both the sentences. Now, predicative only adjectives also have further uses. One group of predicative only adjectives is used to refer to a condition rather than a characteristic. For example, most health adjectives like ill, well, unwell, and faint are examples of this group, where they refer to a condition rather than a characteristic. Now, if we have a string of adjectives, how do we arrange them? So the order would be noun at the end, adjective of style just before the noun, Gothic. Now I'm speaking of our sentence. Look at the last sentence here. A splendid, large, old, red and blue, carved, wooden, Gothic door. So in this, if we have a string of adjectives, how is the order to be there in the sentence? So the order is the noun comes at the very end, the adjective of style comes just before the noun, which is Gothic. Then we have before it participle adjectives, which come just before the adjectives of style, wooden and carved. We have adjectives of color coming before participle adjectives, red and blue. Adjectives of age come just before the adjectives of color, where you have old. And before that come general adjectives. General adjectives like splendid, large, huge, big, etc. So a sentence would be a splendid, large, old, red and blue, carved, wooden, Gothic door. So this is how you would arrange adjectives if they come as a string. You have to quantify them and analyze them and put them according to how they should appear in that sentence. Now, usually comparatives and superlatives of adjectives and their assumed forms. The usual adjectives have their comparatives and superlatives and their assumed form like this. Usually adjectives form their comparative and superlative forms by adding er and est. For example, one syllable adjectives like big, they form their degrees of comparison by adding er and est, as in bigger and biggest. Now, disyllabic adjectives, that is adjectives which have two syllables, they form their degrees of comparison more or less in the same way. Exceptions are antique, constant, steadfast. There, these words do not use er or est. So, adjectives of more than two syllables. Now, we spoke about disyllabic adjectives, and now adjectives of more than two syllables form their comparatives and superlatives by placing more and most before them. So, difficult, those are adjectives with more than two syllables. Difficult, three syllables. Now, they form their degrees of comparison by adding more and most. Some disyllabic adjectives that can form their comparative and superlative forms either way. That is, you can either have them as using it either by taking er or est, or by using more and most. Monosyllabic adjectives. In some cases, even monosyllabic adjectives are used with more and most, that is to give more emphasis. For example, in a sentence like more true, then some positive forms of adjectives are actually adverbs too. That is something interesting, where you have positive forms of adjectives actually being adverbs also. They form their degrees of comparison in a different manner. For example, you have good, better, best, near, nearer, nearest, next or next, late, latest or last, and bad, worse, worst. So here these adjectives also can function as adverbs. Now, certain points that you can keep in mind. A noun sometimes functions as an adjective. Such nouns are called attributive nouns, as in I hospital. Point 2. Both the present participle and the past participle can function as adjectives. Swimming pool and written constitution. Sometimes it becomes difficult to say whether the word is an adjective or a participle, as in the case, the door was closed. So there, it's difficult to say whether the word is an adjective or a participle in closed. Then when some adjectives are preceded by the definite article, they become noun phrases with singular or plural reference. That is, when some adjectives are preceded by the definite article, they become noun phrases, as in, the best is yet to come. the best. Become noun phrases with singular or plural reference. Or the poor are always with us, where there is a plural reference in poor. The article is often left out in parallel constructions, as in young and old. So you do not always have the article with young and old. Sometimes they can be left out. Point 4. An adjective becomes defining or non-defining depending on its use. My athletic son. Athletic here becomes defining if the speaker has more than one son. That is, my athletic son, where the speaker could have more than one son. Or, and adjective, there is a spelling mistake, sorry for that. The adjective there becomes, athletic becomes non-defining if the speaker has only one son. So you have both defining or non-defining depending on its use. My athletic son. If the son is the only one, then it becomes non-defining, while if the son, there are more than one sons, then the athletic adjective becomes defining. So this is the end of your chapter on adjectives. I'm sure there is a lot of theory and not very appreciative of it, I know, but we have to get along. So here is it. It is for you. Thank you. So here we come to an end to this chapter on adjectives. There is quite a bit of theory in this, but we have to get along with it. Thank you.